Sales has fundamentally changed. The traditional sales model that has worked for centuries has all been about leads converting into wins. And as we go down the funnel, we try and disqualify customers who aren't a fit, or they take themselves out of the opportunity list. But this way of doing things doesn't work anymore. There's a couple of fundamental reasons why. The first problem is that this flow worked amazing when most of the money that a salesperson would make would be at the end of the funnel. But in today's world, we buy differently. Thanks to software as a service, or SaaS, we now have the internet provide us a lot of the value that salespeople used to provide. So I want to turn this funnel on its side. Leads are coming in to the side, but as we go through it, the wins now happen in the middle of the funnel. So what do you think happens when I now draw an expansion? Well, turns out 72 to 93% of the lifetime value that we get from a customer happens after the initial deal. So we have to think about the customer buying process much differently than before. So traditionally, before any customer would buy something, they had to have a problem. Now, salespeople, we usually are the ones that help educate them on how to solve that problem. And then as they get towards the end of the buying cycle, we help them select between competitors. So in this new model, we're now going to break that into 3 experiences. The first experience, a customer needs to be aware that they have a problem. They do this usually by reading things that marketing has sent out, or that they stumble upon a problem and they realize there's got to be a way to fix it. Now in today's world, buyers think about solving problems by first going to the internet, specifically Google. And in Google, we typically search how to. This style of education is something that customers now are looking for when speaking with an expert. How do I blank? And now this is the role that we can help customers go through the buying experience. Now the final experience that they go through is selection mode. Especially today, more than ever, we have a lot of competitors. This selection mode is how we help customers go from the education phase all the way through signing on the dotted line. So let's use a real experience. When I got married, I had to buy a ring, and I've never done that before. I was aware I had a problem. Now, because I've never done it before, I also had another experience where I don't want to talk to a salesperson first, because I have this negative feeling that every time I talk to a salesperson, all they're going to do is try and sell me something that maybe is too expensive, doesn't quite fit what I need. I expect that I don't have all the information and that they're going to do something that is in their advantage. So I first go online. And what I found online is that there's a lot more to buying a ring than I ever knew. I learned about the 4 C's and how color and carat and all of these different elements go into finding the right ring. So I found out that without talking to a salesperson, there actually is ways that I can buy a ring online. So I go through my process and I look at all the different rings and I have this aha experience. And this aha experience typically happens when I realize there's a solution to my problem. In this case, I realized that when I educated on myself online, I had a better experience than if I were to go into the store, because online I can get 3D models and see how different colors and shapes all work together with a specific setting. Versus if I went on an actual brick and mortar store, they only have a couple rings that might fit. So my education phase has now refined into a couple different options that I could get into. Now, let me pause on this example for a second and let's talk about the sales process. At this phase, the first experience that I had around this aha moment is the customer's experience. Traditionally in the sales process, we would categorize this as an MQL, or a marketing qualified lead. Typically at this point, a customer is intrigued in learning about your business, but not ready to actually get into a sales cycle with you. That is what we would call an SQL. So this phase, the SQL, or sales qualified lead, is typically categorized as a discovery call, when a customer is ready to jump on the phone with an expert for about 30 minutes, just to see if there's a good fit. And then through this selection phase, we go from discovery call, maybe a demo, proposal, negotiation, all the way through close. But right now, let's go back into the role play and see how this experience journey actually aligns to the customer. So I have realized that I've educated myself and I can figure out what type of ring and shape and size within the budget that I'm looking for, and now I'm ready to buy. So because it's a big ticket item, it makes sense for a salesperson to help me through this final stage, help me evaluate the trade-offs. This selection mode is a really powerful opportunity for the sales professional not to come across as somebody who's just trying to sell something to get their quota, but instead somebody who's helping educate and get me over the finish line. And so this is the decision that I made. Either I go to a brick and mortar store or I stay online and I buy it online. Now in my particular case, I did buy it online. I wanted to see what this online experience would look like because I already had a feeling based on talking to all my friends what the in-store experience would be like. So here's what happened next. I figure out the ring that I want. I talk to somebody just to make sure it's the right shape, understand next steps, but every single time you get to this moment right here, where you have signed or are about to sign, you have this excitement, but it can also quickly turn into buyer's remorse. So this edge of trying to get over the finish line, right when I have committed, or right when I have submitted my credit card, or decided that I'm gonna pay for this big ticket item, but I haven't received it yet, this is where the seeds of churn are planted. Now earlier I had mentioned that 72 to 93% of the lifetime value that we get from a customer happens at the end or after we have this initial buying experience. So what can we do to optimize for this continued growth? Now we'll uncover this more as the course progresses, but let me give you the 3 experiences on how you can expect this to unfold. Now, because this first experience is so critical to the long-term success, we need to break it out. So this first experience that a customer goes through right after commitment is called the onboarding flow. Onboarding ends when we have some form of first value, where the customer is committed, they're excited to see, they hold it in their hand, they see the ring, or they can see the first glimpse of how your solution will help. This is what we would call first value. It doesn't have to be that everything's implemented and all ready to go. All we're looking for at this stage is that the customer has this relief feeling that this is going to be awesome. And so now this onboarding phase naturally leads into the impact phase. The impact is when your customer is just using your solution. We need to make sure that we are measuring this type of impact so that they can see the results that our solution has provided, so that in a recurring revenue business, they keep coming back to us year over year over year, or even better, they provide us with growth opportunities. And this is why we have the expansion. We want to make sure that we capitalize on all of this growth. And usually that is through upsell, cross-sell, renewal, or some form of word of mouth. Now, all of these experiences our customers go through when they have a great buying experience with you. So as a sales professional, we need to now think about this whole process completely differently. Instead of the buyer-centric leads to wins and talking about ways to crush deals or get people over the finish line, or even the negative adage of always be closing, we are now completely converting that into a new model, what we call the bow tie shape, because we know that there is some great things that we've learned from old school selling processes, but we have to apply a new mindset. Focus on the customer first, and then provide an impact as we go through the end, because that is where the real value comes through. So I'm looking forward to spending some more time going through this with you to see how we can actually convert our customers into lifelong partners.